Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Dialectic of Liberation, i.e. the Hegelian Dialectic. The process through which the subject and object get united to bring about the unity of two fundamental drives. Drive number one, to know the truth, and drive number two, to realize the good. We talk about the spirit of dialectic, i.e. the structure and the dynamic of Hegelian dialectic. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let us turn to the Encyclopedia of Logic and read together Hegel's own definition of dialectic mentioned in paragraph 79. This is how it goes. With regard to its form, the logical has three sides. A, the side of abstraction or of the understanding. B, this dialectical or negatively rational side. And C, the speculative or positively rational side. What you saw in the previous slide was the textual definition of Hegelian dialectic as it appeared in paragraph 79. Here I'm showing the same thing but in a graphical sense for the sake of clarity. Moment one or side one is abstraction or understanding, and moment two is dialectical or negatively rational side, and moment three is a speculative or positively rational side. Besides those two definitions, which are the classical Hegelian definitions, there is a popular definition, which is non-Hegelian. And to be honest with you, it's a most simplistic and at the same time the emasculated definition of Hegelian dialectic, to the point that it renders Hegelian dialectic useless and void of any practical application. It says that dialectic is the unity of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Yes, there is an element of truth in it, but there is only this little element of truth in it. It doesn't tell us what this dialectic is, and Hegel, as I mentioned, never used this formulation. And in this episode, my goal is that you do not use this formulation and use the formulation that is definitely and truly Hegelian and nothing else. And we will talk about that later. The starting point of dialectic, ladies and gentlemen, is the immediate being which is right in front of us. In French Revolution of 1789 to 1799, that subject matter was French Revolution. In Zuccotti Park in New York City in 2011, between September 17, 2011 to November 15, 2011, the subject matter for us was Occupy Wall Street, or whatever is your subject matter. That's your immediacy. Now, according to Hegel, this immediate is changing toward a goal, toward a truth. So, in other words, according to Hegel, what is, and this is French Revolution in front of us in the beginning of it, or the Occupy Wall Street in the beginning of it, is false. The truth of them are in their becoming. So we have to find out through the power of abstraction, through the power of consciousness at the level of understanding, that what is the truth of this reality in front of us. We do that through reflection into itself. The result of this reflection into itself, which it comes through the power of abstraction and thinking, we had immediate being, the world of immediacy behind us. Now we entered the world of mediation. The world of mediation is the world of the movement of dialectic, Hegelian dialectic. And because it's a movement, it is made of stations, of stages, of moments. Ladies and gentlemen, the first moment and the most important moment of Hegelian dialectic is called being in itself, or reflection into itself. We reflect into the immediate being to find out what is the truth of the immediate being. Being in itself is the truth of the immediate being. The truth of immediate being is universal. The truth of the immediate being is the potentiality inside the immediate being, inside the reality. The truth of immediate being is the driving force, the law of motion of this reality. The truth of the immediate being is its ideality. So therefore, Hegel starts from the ideality of the reality. Ideality is the starting point. Just like any revolution or any change in human history, that it has to start from the ideal first and then make the ideal realized. Hegelian dialectic is a dialectic of change. It's not system analysis. It is the analysis of the change. This the immediacy of the mediation, in this case the first moment, which is being in itself, it is also called self-equality. This is the power of self-equality of the reality. But this self-equality at the same time has power of negativity within itself. This power of negativity in Hegelian lingo is called being for itself. I'm showing it here, and I'm not going to talk about it later, but it's important to keep in mind that being in itself not only is the power of self-equality, but it also has intrinsically the power of negativity within itself. In our journey, we started from the immediate being, from the subject matter at hand, from the reality. And then we went into the dialectic, and the first moment of that was the ideality, which was named being in itself, or reflection into itself. Now we are moving from ideality back to the reality. We reflect our ideality into our reality to find out if our ideality matches with our reality. How do we do that? we reflect the ideality through the properties or through the relevant properties of the reality. So our property has, or our subject matter, or our reality has several properties. Property 1, property 2, property 3, so on. We reflect the ideality, which is being in itself, which is the truth of the being, into these properties to see that if they match with our ideality. Example, take the case of Occupy Wall Street. And then we observe as an observer the movement. We look at the property called the leadership, the militancy as a property, level of organization as a property, the slogans, the demands, and things of that sort. And if the ideality of the Occupy Wall Street is freedom or generalized occupation in the whole city through different sectors of the industry, then we take this ideality of freedom and we reflect it into the level of leadership or the quality of the leadership, the property of leadership. Is this leadership incongruent with this ideal? Is this program of the movement matches with the ideality of the movement? Is this level of militancy, is this level of preparedness, is the size, and is the strategy, is the tactic of this movement as properties match with the ideality of freedom? And when we see that there are differences in the form of limitations, in form of shortcomings, in form of one-sidedness, we come with what is called the second moment of dialectic, which is called being for another or reflection into another. If the first moment was universality or universal, this second moment is particular. If the first moment was the identity, now this second moment in front of us is the difference. If the first moment was the potentiality of the movement, this second moment is the conditions of the movement. And because the ideality is not realized, we are dealing with contradiction. A contradiction between the identity, the first moment, and the difference, which is the second moment. Between the being in itself and being for another. And this contradiction must be resolved. This third moment represents the fusion of contradiction between reality and ideality, captured by the will of the man. In history, the historical man. In a community, in a movement, the will of the leadership and the spirit of freedom among the members of community. The content of this will is will to power or will to purpose. its will to truth, its will to ideality, its will to end. And in order for this will to move forward, it has to transform into passion. Nothing in history happened, nothing fundamental in history happened without the power of passion. Passion fused with the will. Will to purpose with a passion creates action. And the action, in this case, in the case of dialectic, according to Hegel, is called reason. Reason defined by Hegel as the purposive activity. I repeat, Hegel defines reason as purposive activity. A purposive activity that creates a result. That creates a result. And this result, which is called returning back to itself, it happens through the operation called sublation. In German, they call it Aufhebung, something like that. This Aufhebung has three parts to it. Part number one, you cancel anything that is a limitation on the way to realization of truth, realization of ideality. So it's cancellation of the negative. The second aspect of this movement or of this operation is preservation. You preserve what is good in the reality. But the third moment, which is very important, is called promotion, meaning you promote this reality to a higher level reality. How that will happen, according to Hegel, through imagination. So will becomes passion. Passion becomes action. Action becomes imagination. And the unity of all of these, the orchestra or the orchestra of all of these creates for us a new reality. And that new reality will be a returning back to itself, as if dialectic is the journey of the hero, or hero's journey, is the odyssey of man to freedom. Let me show it graphically, the same circle of movement, or the same movement of moments here. Moment one was being in itself. Moment two was being for another. Moment three was being in and for itself. And moment four is a returning back to itself. And of course, this one continue till man becomes free, independent, self-determining agency with the power of reason, with beauty, and with good.